Okay, so we're going to move on to number 8 and 9 on your study guide today. They are supply and demand. Now, when we started this a couple days ago, I told you that we'd eventually get to why it is things cost what they do. These two words right here are the number one factor in determining the price of an item. It doesn't matter what you buy. It doesn't matter if you're talking about a 25-cent gumball or a $600 PS5. Their prices are always going to be determined by the supply and demand of the actual object. So the supply is simply how much of that item is available, or how many people provide that service. The demand is how much of that item or how much of that service is actually wanted by people. Okay, so for example, there are certain jobs that there's plenty of. Okay, so let's look at fast food, for example. Okay, let's say we're going to work the drive-through window at McDonald's. Is that a job that requires like a lot of schooling or a college degree? No, not really. Are there plenty of people available who could do that job? Sure. Okay. So there's a big supply of people who are able to do that job. Is the demand for that job very high? Is there a ton of people around who necessarily are competing for that job or want that job? No. Okay. So does McDonald's have to pay that person very much? No, of course not. They know that they can, find someone to do that job for relatively less money than other jobs. Okay. Let's look at an item or a good that's relatively cheap. What's something that's relatively inexpensive? Doesn't cost you a whole lot of money. What's something that costs like $5 or less? What's that? Okay, anything at 5 and below. Okay, give me a specific item from there. T-shirt. Tell you what. Before you said that, I was going to use her water bottle just because I saw it sitting there. Okay, so she has that a green Gatorade water bottle with an orange top. Do you remember where you got that? Don't know? Okay. So, I know you can get that water bottle at Walmart. I've seen it there. I've seen it at Amazon. I think I've seen it at Dunham's. I've seen it at Dick's Sporting Goods. So, if I wanted that exact same water bottle, is there a lot of places I could go to get it? Yeah. Okay. So, off top of your head, let's see. I think that bottle, I think it's $4 or $5. Let's just call it $5. Okay. So, are there plenty of those bottles out there? Sure, the supply of them is pretty high. What about the demand? Are those water bottles in high demand? No, you don't have people camping outside the store ready to knock each other over to go get one. Okay, so if you wanted one of those, you could easily go get it. Okay, so therefore its price isn't very high. The example I always like to give is game consoles. Does anyone know what's coming out here in about 6 weeks? Chase? Okay, PlayStation 5 and the new Xbox are both coming out here like second week of November. Okay, so if you pay attention to either one of those two consoles, you'll know that they took pre-orders on them this year. It's the first time they've ever done pre-orders on them. Well, pre-orders sold out in like less than an hour. So what does that say about their demand? Shala? Yeah, it means their demand's really high. It means a lot of people are waiting for the new console. A lot of people want the new console. So, does anyone know how much they cost off the top of their head? Close. They're $600. Okay, they're going to be $600 right off the bat. And all the pre-orders have sold out. They're going to be really, really hard to find when they actually get released. Okay, so what's the supply of that new PS5 going to be like? Well, that's the supply. How much of it's going to be available? Yeah, probably not that much. Okay, they've already sold out of their pre-orders, and they've already said that some people who pre-ordered them probably won't get them until after the first of the year. Okay, so that supply is going to be pretty low. What about their demand? Okay, really high. Okay, obviously pre-orders sold out. The ones that are in the stores on, I think, November 12th, I could guarantee you there are going to be people camping out in front of the store. Guarantee it. Oh yeah, they'll be. I bet there are some places where people will be there a day or two before then and camp out. Yep, happens every time. So, tell you, there's a story I always like to tell about when I was in college, where when I was in college, the Nintendo Wii first came out. Some of you guys might have one. They've played one before. Obviously, it's been a long time ago. Okay, I'm an old guy. Okay, but when that Nintendo Wii first came out, there were literally people camping outside of Best Buy waiting for them to be released. Okay, it was a very, very in-demand item. A lot of people wanted them. Well, they were very hard to find. You couldn't just walk into a store and buy them. When stores got them, they got them like 2 or 3 at a time, and they sold out in minutes. So, when I was in college, during my Christmas break, I went down to Florida with some friends. My mom told me, "Hey, if you see a Wii down there, pick one up. I want to get one for you guys for Christmas." Okay, I laugh at her because I know they're impossible to find. She does not know that. So we're walking through the mall one night. We go past a GameStop, and how GameStop does, they have all those empty boxes in front of the window. I thought, well, I'll go in and at least ask. Go in and ask the employees, like, "No, I don't have any, but I'm supposed to get 3 on a truck tomorrow." All right, cool. I thought, well, I'm on vacation. I have nothing better to do. I want to go down there first thing in the morning, and I'll wait in line. I get there at 5:30. I get in through a little side door where they're bringing in their shipments for the day. And if you guys have ever been to the mall early in the morning when it's not quite open yet, stores have that little gate in front of it. I just went and sat in front of the gate. A couple minutes later, 2 or 3 other people came, sat next to me, and we started to form this line. Store opens at 8 o'clock. There's probably 15, 16 of us in line. They let us in. They hand us all a number. Noon comes. There's probably 25 or so people in line at this point. Truck hasn't come yet with the Wii's on it. A little bit after that, guy walks into the store. Asked the employee about him. He's like, "Well, yeah, that's the line right there. I think we're into the 30s now if you want to take a number and wait." Guy points to me and says, "Is that the first person in line?" He says, "Yes." Guy walks to me, offers me $100 for my spot in line. Well, do you think anyone today would pay $100 to wait in line for a Nintendo Wii? No, of course not. Why was he willing to spend $100 just for my spot? Well, yeah, I was the first one there waiting, but why is he willing to pay that extra money just for my spot? He really wanted it, right? It was in that high demand, and the supply of them was so low that he knew if he wanted one, he was going to have to pay for that spot, right? I tell the guy, "Hey, I'm sorry, I had nothing better to do today. I'm going to go ahead and wait it out." And he keeps going down the line. Next person, offer him this $100. No one in line took it. Not a single person took it. So, a little after 1 o'clock, UPS guy comes in. He's got a shipment of these Wii's. He was supposed to they thought they were going to get 3. I think they ended up getting 20 in that day. There's 20 on the UPS truck. Okay, so the first 20 people in line got one. That year, if you had looked on eBay like 2 weeks before Christmas, okay, that system was going for probably $700, $800, $900. It only cost you $300 to buy it in the store. So why do you think people were buying them for 2 or 3 times that amount on eBay? Carter? Not quite. Shadow? Exactly. That was the only way they were going to get one, is if they paid up the extra money for it. Okay. So the class before you guys, we looked up the PS5 on eBay because there are some people who are trying to sell their pre-sales already. Yeah. So cheapest one we found was $1,200 on eBay. So double what it's going to cost you in a store to go buy one. Again, why would someone be willing to pay double the amount before it's even been released yet? Okay. They really, really want it, and what else? Hello? Very good. They're probably not going to be able to go to a store and buy one when it's actually released. The only way they're going to get it is if they pay that extra money. So guys, that's just supply and demand. It's going to have a direct effect on the price of something. If you have something that everybody wants, and there's not a whole lot of it, you can raise your price and people will pay it. The opposite is true though too. If you have something that nobody wants, it's not in very high demand, and you have a whole bunch of it, guess what? You're going to have to slash the prices on it. Let's go back to that Nintendo Wii for a second. Well, who here has one? Okay, who has one that's just sitting somewhere, it's not even hooked up, you don't even play it anymore? Yeah, me too. That one I bought, it's sitting in a plastic tote somewhere in my basement. Probably haven't played it in 15 years. Okay? We looked on eBay last period too for a Nintendo Wii. You can buy them for like $45 on eBay right now. They're super cheap. Why? Well, supply is pretty good. I mean, if you want one, they're pretty easy to find. But the demand isn't. Everyone who wanted one already has one. And, the people who do have them probably don't play them much anymore either. There's not any new games or anything coming out for them. So the demand for them isn't very high. So that takes us to number 15 here. So on your study guide, make sure you're copying the stuff here in the yellow and the neon green. So this kind of just illustrates how that supply-demand affects your prices. If the price of something is high, usually that means its supply is pretty low, and the demand for it's pretty high. We talked about how goods do this, and we talked a little bit about service, I guess, with the McDonald's example. But let's flip that a little bit. So with the price being high, I used to know a guy who he flew helicopters. Well, do you know a lot of people that can fly helicopters? Because I sure don't. Pretty hard. No one? Cool. So, pretty hard job to do. But his job was a little bit more special than that. His helicopter had these big, giant saw blades on it. His job was to fly around, and where you see power lines go through trees, like for AP and stuff, they would hire him to come fly that helicopter on either side of the power line and run this big saw blade and cut the trees on either side. So it's hard enough to fly a helicopter. It's hard enough to run a chainsaw and cut trees. I imagine it's super hard to do both at the same time. So obviously that job paid him a lot of money. But also, at that time, I think there were 7 pilots in the United States who could do that job. He was one of them. So obviously, he could charge a lot for his service. The supply of people who could actually do his job was low, and, there's a lot of areas that have trees. That made the demand for his job pretty high. So therefore, he got paid a lot of money. Now, with our opposite of that, we already kind of talked with the McDonald's example. But if the price of something is low, usually that means the supply of it's really high, or it's pretty easy to find, and the demand for it's pretty low. Most people either don't really need it all that much, or if they do want it, they already have it, or it's not a very big priority.